that's when I became really interested in this role of the product manager. I looked up to Dane. He's the guy in the middle of the photo there. He is the he was the product manager as well as being the dev manager, and also the UX designer. He was this unique blend of all the things that you need to be an awesome product manager. And I just really aspired to be like him. So I started going to every tech product management meetup that I could find in my area. And there were quite a few. It became quite tiring after a while, because when you go to meetups sort of a couple of times a week, that's a lot of networking to do, a lot of new people to meet. But it was really valuable for me. I met a lot of product managers. I asked them questions about what they do in their job, what are the things that they care about, what are the problems that they're having. And I just learned the language of product management. There's a lot of words that they use that were just totally mystical to me at the time. I didn't understand what is a roadmap. How do you prioritize? What are all these things that they're talking about, Agile and Scrum? So I just gradually taught myself over time by listening to all these talks and speaking to all these people, and eventually got my first break into product management through someone that I'd met at these meetups. So she was actually one of the key organizers of the meetups. And after knowing her for, I think, about a year, she could see that I was not giving up. I was super, super passionate about getting into product no matter what it took. And I really was getting very skilled in it. I was starting to try and incorporate as much of it into my day job as I could. I was working with the dev team. I was speaking with a product manager, trying to help him with the roadmap if I could, help him understand customer problems. And yeah, so this contact that I had in the Meetup network introduced me to the general manager of product at Australia's biggest accounting tech company, MYOB. So that's on the next slide, thanks. So I joined there as a product manager. 2 years into my tech career, thinking that I knew so much about everything already, and then realizing very quickly that I knew nothing. That was a very, very humbling experience of coming in and then realizing just how much expectation there is on product managers. Yeah, after I think just a few months of working there, I suddenly found myself managing 2 engineering teams, working on one of our core tax products. And yeah, it was like being thrown in the deep end of a pool. There was so much to learn, just about how to lead a team, how to set a vision for a product, how to decide what we should build now and what we should build next and what we should build later. How to make those really tough decisions when you're working in a space that you've never worked in before. It was an amazing learning experience for me, and that's me on the stage 2 years later speaking at one of our biggest internal or external conferences to a crowd of about 300 accountants presenting one of the products that I just made. So yeah, that really set me up for success, I think. What really helped me in that job as a brand new product manager was working for a company which actually had a lot of product managers. I think there was about 30 of them. So I had a lot of colleagues to learn from. I think it's pretty tough starting out as a product manager if you're the only product manager in a company. You'll learn a lot and you'll learn it quickly, but it's always helpful to have other product colleagues around you to learn from and to model behavior off. And on to the next slide. A couple of years after my journey at MIOB, I was again getting a bit bored. As you can probably tell, I have a trait where every couple of years I kind of look for something new, and I'm always looking. I always choose my roles based on what is a skill that I don't yet have that I really want. How can I get experience in that? So I actually specifically go after jobs for things that I'm maybe not quite 100% qualified for yet, or I don't have all the experience needed, but I know that I'm super passionate about it. And I know that it's something I really want to learn. So my next product management job was at a company called Ansarada. They do virtual data rooms. I liken it to Dropbox on steroids for mergers and acquisitions. They kind of do these big document management, data management solutions for big deals that companies are doing. And I joined their R&D team, managing a data science team and also an engineering team building natural language processing tools for their platforms that they have. And at the time, I had a little bit of experience working with some teams who were playing with machine learning models, but not nearly what was, I guess, expected of this role, which I only discovered once I started. So I had to learn, again, a lot in a very short space of time, how to actually work with data scientists, for starters, because they are different from working with software engineers, how to build machine learning models, how to build customer experience for machine learning models. I also owned an iOS app for the first time, where previously I'd only ever worked on web apps. So again, it was learning a whole new domain, but it taught me so much, and I really encourage you all to put yourself out there and take the risks and go for jobs that, or that maybe you don't have all the experience, but you're just really passionate about. It has to be something that you're interested in for you to be successful. But it's a really great way to just push yourself. And then the last slide, or the last click on this slide, is a year after, I moved across to Atlassian, which, if you haven't heard of it, it's sort of enterprise project management software covering a lot of different areas, but mostly used by the tech industry. And I joined there as a growth product manager. And again, this was something that I'd not done extensively before. So I'd worked a little bit on trying to grow acquisition of some of the products that I'd owned, but I'd never done actual in-depth, full-on growth, which is having a revenue goal. I think one of the key differences I've noticed between traditional product managers and growth product managers is, as a traditional product manager, you're often goaled on things like customer satisfaction, NPS, usage of the product, or like number of active users. But in growth, your goal is always revenue. You're trying to drive revenue in some way, and it's some sort of dollar figure that you're aspiring towards. And there's a whole array of techniques and tactics that we use to do that, which has been super interesting to learn. I think working a lot more with data to drive my decisions has been really amazing, and just learning and doing a lot more experimentation. So A/B testing, multivariant testing. That's sort of been the most interesting thing for me to learn in my last year at Atlassian. So that's my journey. On to the next slide. I thought I'd talk a little bit about the core skills that product managers need to have. So again, next. So these are the 4 pillars of product management that we teach and judge ourselves on at Atlassian. And they're also what we use in our job interviews. These are the 4 core areas that we judge people on, how skilled they are. So leading and inspiring, it's all about influencing without authority, because as product managers, we generally don't have authority over the dev team. We don't manage them directly, and instead we need to lead and inspire them to do the work that we want them to. I've certainly heard and worked in other teams where it's like the dev team does whatever the product manager asks them to. But, a really great dev team will question everything. Engineers will ask, why? Why are we building this? What is the impact? Why should I build this first? And as a product manager, you need to have those answers. You need to be able to explain to them and convince them and get them really energized about why they should be building this product that you're working on. So you're setting the product vision, you're driving the strategy, and you're all, like, part of leadership is being confident with ambiguity and change. You need to have a lot of confidence to lead the team and show them that you're a capable product manager. So next up, we've got communication. So it's a really crucial skill for product managers. You are always communicating all day, every day. My calendar, ever since I became a product manager, I often describe as just one big, long, endless string of meetings. I am just always talking to people, always communicating, always over-communicating, re-communicating, repeating myself. But it's a really core part of the job. People need to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And quite often you have to deal with stakeholders who are from all areas of the business. So not just engineering, but also marketing, sales, finance, customer support. There's a whole array of different people that you need to be able to communicate with, and they all need slightly different techniques. They all have different needs, different drivers, and there's different things that you need to do to be able to influence each one. So aside from speaking, actually listening and collaborating is also a key part of communication. You need to be a strong storyteller. You need to be able to captivate people. You need to take them on a journey so that they see the value of what you're doing, and be able to listen to others and really seek to understand before you try and convince as well. It's a really key skill for building relationships with your colleagues and your teammates and your stakeholders. And next, just your core product management craft. So just understanding the core jobs to be done as a product manager. You are 100% customer centric. Everything is about building great products for your customers. You're doing things like interviewing customers all the time and analyzing the results. You're a continuous learner, and you've got a growth mindset. You're doing things like understanding who your competitors are in the market and what the value proposition is of your product over your competitors' products. And you're thinking about the build, measure, learn loop of developing and creating a product in an agile and lean kind of way. And last but definitely not least is results. Outcomes over outputs is a common phrase in product management. We're not about creating volume or velocity. We're about creating outcomes. We're about making it, creating value for our customers and for the business that we're working with as well. So we're constantly driving our team to achieve the outcomes. But before that, we're actually setting goals. It's quite a big part of the product manager's role, to deciding what goals to set and what success metrics you're going to set for yourself, what criteria to know that you've actually hit your goal. So yeah, being able to balance all of that in your decision making is really important. So on to the next slide. I've got some books and podcasts to recommend to you. These are some of my favorite books, and they're really famous in the product management industry. So Inspired by Marty Kagan. Every product manager has heard of this book and probably read it as well. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, particularly for those of you who are thinking about maybe not necessarily becoming a product manager in a big company, but maybe you're looking to start your own company, start your own business and be your own product manager. And the last one, not necessarily a well-known book, but User Story Mapping by Jeff Patton. Jeff Patton is a product management consultant that does a lot of training, and I took his course a couple of years ago. He's amazing, and he teaches some of the core skills around product management, and user story mapping is definitely one of them. I think it's base knowledge for all product managers. And then on to the next slide. I've got some bonus books, because product management is not just about product management. As a product manager, you need to be across a number of different disciplines. So analytics is super important. Knowing how to use and get the most out of data is key. So I've got the Lean Analytics, also by Eric Ries. And then user experience. You need to not necessarily be a designer, but you need to appreciate what good design is and know when you see good design versus bad design, because you're all about designing good user experiences, and you're going to be working with designers as a product manager. So The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman is a really great book for that. And then lastly, Made to Stick. So marketing is another key part of product management, because it's one thing to build a good product, but without good marketing, no one's going to discover or use it. So that's another really core area of product management that you need to learn. And Made to Stick, it's not technically a marketing book. It's actually more about creating ideas that stick with people. How do you make something memorable? How do you make it remarkable? How do you do change management and convert people to your way of thinking or the product that you want them to use? So that's a really great book as well. And then on to the next slide. I've just got a couple of blogs and emails and podcasts that I recommend. So Farnham Street by Shane Parrish. He does a weekly email. He's got a blog, and it's amazing. He covers a whole range of topics, but mostly on thought, like just leadership in general. And it's a really good sort of rounding way to help you develop those leadership skills and mental models and growth models and things like that. There's the A16Z podcast by Andreessen Horowitz. They do a lot of interviews with different leaders from really well-known companies, and they always have super interesting podcasts across product and just business in general. And then for blogs, I recommend Gibson Biddle. So he was the VP of product for Netflix back in its heyday. I mean, it's still in its heyday, but even back when it was just growing and booming, And he's written some really great blogs on both product management and leadership as well, which I highly recommend. So I promised you one last thing to take away for this talk today. And if you go on to the next slide, it is to manage yourself as a product. If you're trying to become a product manager and you want to learn what it is to manage a product, think of yourself as a product. What is your vision for your career? What are your strengths and weaknesses? What is the market like when you're pitching yourself to other companies? What are your areas of growth? What is your roadmap? How are you going to achieve that vision that you have set for yourself? Break that down into tasks, set yourself goals. And when it comes to goals, you want to have that, what we call a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal for like your future vision. But you also want to set yourself manageable milestones, smaller goals that you can hit along the way to get there. There might be even things like just applying for, 10 jobs, 10 product management jobs, or going to a meetup for, the next 3 weeks in a row and meeting 5 new people. There's a lot of small steps that you can do to help make sure that you're progressing along that roadmap that you set for yourself. You'll learn a lot just by doing that and having that mindset, that growth mindset of growing yourself as a product. Now, before we, I lied. There's not just one thing. I've got a bonus slide. There he is, bonus slide. This next slide I'm going to show you. This is, I've muted the bad words, but there is, oh no, I left one on there, sorry. I've got an uncensored version there as well, which I'll show, but avert your eyes if you're offended by bad words. Sorry if anyone is, but this is a poster which I saw on the wall of one of the product management consulting companies that I love called Brainmates here in Australia. And this really just epitomized all the things that I felt I needed to do when I was first starting out as a product manager. And I keep this poster as a reminder to myself of the mentality that I need to have. I need to believe in myself. I need to work hard. I need to push myself out of my habits. I need to speak up and collaborate with people and just stop procrastinating and get over myself, because, a lot of people I think, I want to be a product manager. They're awesome. I think I'm good enough already. And you'll realize when you get in there that it's so much harder than you think it's going to be. There is so much to learn. It's a really hard, tough job. It's very rewarding, but it's not easy. You're always learning. You're always looking for ideas and inspiration everywhere. And you need to look for inspiration widely. Don't sort of keep your blinkers on. You're all about educating your clients, your stakeholders, and also listening to your gut. You're asking for help. You're questioning everything. You're learning to take criticism, because you will get some hard feedback across your career, and you need to learn to not take it personally and actually do something with it. And just keep coming up with new ideas, new solutions, keep pushing the boundaries. I really love this poster. So I think on the next slide I've got the uncensored version. Avert your eyes if you don't like rude words. But this is the full poster there. So I've got a little link to it in the bottom there. If anyone loves this poster as much as I do, you can buy it online and stick it on your wall. Thank you. That's all I've got. I think the last slide is just for Q&A. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
All right.
All right,
Hello.
thanks, Andrea, for that great presentation. So we are now opening the floor to questions. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to chat it below in the chat box or open your videos and microphones so that you may can talk with Andrea. So yeah, take it away.
So while we're waiting for other people to ask, I got some questions, Andrea. Um, First off, I'm curious. Did you experience any hurdles as you were going through trying to break into product management? That these hurdles discourage you to like continue or something like that.
Yeah, many. The company that when I was working for that small tech startup, I'd been telling my manager for a year that I wanted to do product management. And one of the harder things of trying to get into product management when you're in a small startup company is, one, they don't always need product managers. Like that, they already had one. There wasn't really room for two. And you're generally working on such a tight roadmap, a tight budget that, you can't really, you need everyone to be having all hands on deck always doing the things that they're best at. And so after trying for a year, I realized I was not going to get that opportunity in the company that I worked at. I was going to have to look elsewhere, which is really hard because I think actually more commonly it's easier to transition into product management in a company that you're already working for. So like I said before, like every product manager I know was doing something before they were a product manager, whether it's customer support or software engineering or business analysts. But yeah, that was really hard for me. I think I got quite lucky in terms of getting a product management job in another company. I was lucky, fortunate that they were looking for an entry-level job. So, I think there are some bigger companies that have associate product manager roles and grad positions or grad programs. So those are probably the best places to start applying.
So, do you have any tips for people that go through these discouragements as well? Like, how do they push themselves to continue?
It's really all on you, right? Like you have to want it, and if you want it bad enough, then you will keep going. You will keep trying. I think the key thing, the key thing that helped me, especially as I was trying to sort of progress and grow my career, I was this is that get over yourself thing that I was telling I had to remind myself of, because I was like, I'm good enough for this. Why won't anyone give me a chance? And I realized that I wasn't listening, because people were telling me that, like, you're not ready. I don't think you're ready for this. And what I should have said, instead of saying, no, I am ready, was why? What do I need to do to be ready? What am I missing? How can I improve? How can I grow? Because they were telling me I wasn't ready for a reason. They were feeling that I was missing something. I was missing experience or a core skill, or even just confidence was a big part of it as well. So when you get knocked back or pushed back or rejected from a job application, always be asking yourself, what could I have done better? What am I missing? How do I keep growing so that I am successful next time? Because there's always a reason. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay. Hans, I think there are some questions from the chat.
All right, let's bring up the chat. So over here, Ali Ma has a question. What tips do you have on how to build your portfolio? She's currently an MBA student trying to break into tech.
Interesting. It's in product management, at least in the roles that I've gone for so far, they haven't required a portfolio per se. In fact, most of the product management interview questions are all on sort of mindset and experience. So they're asking you to give examples of how have you handled this situation before? How have you dealt with these kinds of challenges? So what you want to do is think about what stories do you have? What are your stories that you can share of experiences that you've got of challenging situations that you have overcome? And pull from your most recent experience or even from uni. So think about those core skills that I just talked about before. Influencing without authority. Maybe it's something that you've done in group work where you have had to lead your group or, convince members of your group to, lean towards your idea or work on a challenging project together. Maybe, and you want to use, there's a method that we use called SBI. It's called situation, behavior, and impact. So when you tell your stories, you want to outline what's the situation, what was happening, what was the problem, what was the behavior, what was your action, what did you do, and what was the impact of that. A lot of people sort of stop at the behavior and they said, I did this and I did that. But the most important thing for a product manager is to make impact. What was the outcome? What was the result? How was it better because of what you did? Those stories are the things I think that are key for your product resume portfolio.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, we got Colwyn Lee. What do you enjoy the most about product management?
Me personally, I enjoy getting to work with a huge variety of people. I spend my days working with engineers, designers, analysts, marketers, content managers, and yeah, I just find that really interesting. I really enjoy getting to sort of work with and understand all these different disciplines. I'm also a very social person, which kind of helps. But yeah, I think getting to work with all these people, getting exposed to all of these different disciplines helps me grow as a person. And one of my core values is growth. I love just growing as a person. I love learning new things. So anything that I can do to help that, and product is one of those industries that's always changing. There's always new things to learn. So yeah, that's sort of what keeps my drive going.
Cool. All right, Viramon.
Well, I have a question. For me personally, I like what you talked about earlier about the storytelling being a core value. So, like me personally, I've been trying to work on my storytelling skills. So, do you have any tips on how to properly tell stories?
I would say the first most important thing is to think about your audience. Who are you telling this story to? What do they care about? What are they passionate about? Another thing that I'll pull from that poster was like, make me care. Like, if you're trying to tell a story to someone, it's your job to make them care. How are you going to do that? What is going to resonate with them? What's going to make them sit up and listen? And that's going to be different for different people, different industries, different disciplines. And you really have to target your message for each person. And that's actually one thing that I do constantly in my job as a product manager is I'll have one message that I'm trying to get across, and I'll have like 15 different stakeholders that I need to give it to. And I tailor my message for every single one of them. It's a slight different variation based on if it's sales, then I'm talking about how is this going to help you win more sales. If it's marketing, I'm talking about this is the core message that we're trying to get across to our customers. If it's engineering, then I'm talking about, hey, this is this awesome thing that you're going to be a part of building, and it's going to help bring so much value to our customers. So audience is key, and then really honing that message. Practice makes perfect. every presentation that I do, even if it's just like a half-hour presentation to my team, something very informal, I practice everything. It's one thing to write yourself a script, but saying it out loud, it really helps you get clarity on your words and fix up all those funny little grammar things that look good on paper, but don't sound right when you say them out loud.
Okay. Thank you for that. In in relation to storytelling, Mara Smith has a question. Could you share a memorable experience doing product management?
Memorable. Memorable in what way? Good or bad? There's been lots of highs and lots of lows, I'd say.
Maybe you can share your both highs and lows.
Highs and lows. I guess highs would be when I've, like getting up on stage when I was at MYOB in front of I think there was a few different seminars that we kind of ran. I think the biggest one was close to 800 people, and actually getting to show off this product that I'd built was just a super proud moment for me. I had a room full of our customers, and I was telling them about this amazing product that we had designed and was going to save them lots of time and effort. And it was just really rewarding to be able to showcase that and then actually speak to them afterwards and then hear about that. But I think actually, to be honest, the happiest moments that I have as a product manager is when I hear from a customer that I have solved a problem for them, because that's what drives us. It's when I've built a feature and I've released it, and maybe I've interviewed a customer or I've reached out to them, or maybe they've just written into us and said hey, this saved me so much time, or this really fixed this awful problem that I had. That's definitely the most rewarding experience. Bad experiences. I've worked on products that have been complete failures, and you will in your career. Not everything will go to plan. There's nothing worse than launching a product and just hearing crickets afterwards when no one uses it. I worked on a product at my previous company that ended up getting shut down. It was sunsetted because there just wasn't anyone using it after a year. But actually, it was a really great learning experience for me, understanding when to stop, because there comes a point where you just realize that you don't have product market fit and it's just not worth investing in anymore, and it's much better to spend that time on something that is working. So yeah, lots of highs and lots of lows.
All right. These are some interesting stories to learn, especially that not everything is going to be perfect.
Definitely not.
So another question here is from Colin. So what's a great way to build your network?
Yeah, great question. Reach out to people. Don't be afraid to reach out to complete strangers. I've had some of the most amazing opportunities just by accepting, chats from people that I don't know through LinkedIn and Twitter and things like that. I saw there's another question in the chat saying, "Can you connect with me?" Yes, sure. You're more than welcome to. I think going to networking events like meetups in your area, they happen all across the globe, and going in, actually, one bit of advice, when you meet new people, assume that they are the CEO of the company that they work for. Always go in with that mentality, because you never know who you're going to meet, and you, don't judge someone by how they look. I think people surprise themselves all the time, and I certainly find this both as a woman and also as a person of color living in a predominantly white country, that people are often surprised when they find out I'm a product manager, because they kind of look at me as this, they think I'm just some young girl who's, the receptionist or something like that. And, I feel embarrassed for them when I see the shock on their face, because that's their bias. So, it's, go there with an open mind, meet as many people as you can, talk to them, make friends with them, and be genuine about it. There's a book, a really famous book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a very old book, but a lot of the things in there still hold true today around taking a genuine interest in people, building real friends, not just meeting people for the sake of adding them to your network, but think about how can you give them something? What value can you give them? And give first, and then it'll pay you back tenfold in the future.
Hi, Andrea. I also have a question. I'm Franz. I'm the one who reached out to you.
Hey, friends.
I am currently an MBA and a CS student at the same time. I'm taking MSCIS and then MBA, and I want to skip fall semester to take a product management internship. And what's the best advice you can to apply to set my foot there?
Yeah. Okay. So with job applications, always tailor every application to the job that you're applying for. I think the number one mistake that people make is just using the same cover letter, the same CV resume with every job that they apply for. You really need to look at exactly what are they looking for in a product, in this position. What kind of skills, what kind of experience, what kind of person, what are their interests, and tailor everything that you can in your CV, and highlight different things depending on what they're asking for. So find ways to demonstrate everything. So that job description that they put out, that's your checklist. You need to try and tick everything off in that list with some sort of example. And some examples will be stronger than others. Some of them you'll have like a really strong example of how you've demonstrated that, and others might just be examples of how you've applied it in a non-professional setting, or just showing that you care about it, or you think about it, or you're trying to learn that skill by taking a course or reading online. But the more that you're able to tick off on that list, the greater chance you have of getting accepted. But I think it's really good to do internships. The more product management is much more about experience than it is about things that you've learned in school. So I think, the more experience working in a company, the better.
Oh, I'm sorry. The only problem I have is I don't have any product management experience. Like, I don't know how to build my product management portfolio.
So I think it's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't leverage enough is, like, I didn't have product management experience either when I applied for my first role, but you need to learn how to find examples in your professional or student life that demonstrate that you know what that skill is. So, if the skill is about prioritization, think about how you've prioritized anything at all in your life, in work. It doesn't have to be for a product. It could just be anything. Finding examples of how you've made tough decisions, or maybe you've used data in some way to make a decision. It doesn't have to be in a product management setting. Anything at all about in a professional sense will work. Another way that you can build your experience is by starting a side project. Running your own business, even if it's even if you're not investing a lot of money or time into it, but just that experience of running a business will teach you so much about product management.
Do you have any?
Yeah.
Do you have any product management interview tips?
Interview tips. You have to really research the company that you're applying for. You have to know it inside out. You have to know the values that they have, and show that you can apply them. I think showing confidence is also another key thing that I think people who are new to the role or new to the industry often struggle with. And I think you need to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, with not knowing the answers. With dealing with ambiguity, you need to show that, hey, I don't know the answer to this question, but I'm willing to go and find out. I know what I need to do to get the answer. I need to, find certain people to speak with, or research something on the internet, or whatever, and be able to say, like, I don't know right now, but I'm going to find out. I think, yeah, it's something that you'll learn to be more comfortable with over time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Franz. We got more in the chat coming.
We got a question from Abra Harun. How did you go about becoming a PM at Atlassian? Was it via leveraging your previous experience or networking?
So it was definitely more about leveraging previous experience, I guess. Not so much networking for this particular example. Networking was definitely more key in my previous jobs. One of the things about Atlassian is typically for product managers, they expect a number of years of industry experience first. Separate from, like, as a product manager, as an associate product manager, they don't expect any experience, but as a PM, definitely yes. So all the interview questions that they had were around things that I'd done previously as a product manager, so I think, if you don't have product management experience, then you'll definitely want to look for those entry-level roles, or roles in smaller startup companies as well.
That's cool. Okay. JJ Johnson over here has a question. Do you have a favorite type of customer research and a least favorite as well?
Customer research. I love speaking to customers. That's definitely one of my favorite things to do in general as a product manager. Interviewing customers, it's quite a skill, learning how to solicit the right answers that you're looking for without leading them in any way. It's something that you have to practice a lot, but it's really rewarding when you can get to the heart of a problem that a customer is having and really understand it deeply. Wherever I can, I try and do research interviews, structured interviews, asking them a bunch of questions or showing them a prototype of something that we've built and getting their feedback on that. I wouldn't say I have a least favorite. I think I enjoy all aspects of customer research, whether it's qualitative through interviews or quantitative, just looking at all the data that we have. I think there's one last question. I think that's all I've got time for today, which is good. Someone's asked a question about setting goals and how to limit them, from Phoebe. Setting goals, I guess depends on the context. If it's goals on the product that you're managing, then you really need to make sure that that is the end goal that you're looking for. Like, it's always about what is the end, like what is the real reason why you're doing this? Is it to drive revenue? Is it to drive engagement with your product? Is it to remove a blocker or frustration in the user experience? What is that actual customer goal that you're trying to solve, or that core business goal that you're trying to achieve? Because every customer problem you solve also has to meet a business need. You could be removing a frustration point. That might be really frustrating, but maybe it's only experienced by like 1% of all your customers, and that's not actually going to move any business metrics for you. So it always has to take into account equally customer and business impact. And then I like to use the OKR method, objectives and key results. We use them extensively at Atlassian. But yeah, thinking about what's the objective, what's the goal that I'm trying to achieve, and then what are the key results that I can expect to see, which indicate that I'm on track to hitting my goal. So, my goal might be to drive activation on one of the products that is like the biggest revenue generating product on our platform. And the key results might be around, okay, what are the key activities that are going to drive activation? Is it about, is it a platform where I'm counting the number of conversations that people are having? Or is it a media platform where I'm counting the number of views on videos that people are watching? What are those lower level metrics that indicate that I'm on the track to hit my goal? Cool, thank you.
All right, so to conclude, again, thank you for coming to the show, Andrea. It's been a pleasure hearing you speak about your experiences and answering questions from the audience. Girma, let's end it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. We won't
You're
take
welcome.
any more of your time. We really appreciate you coming here, and uh, we hope we could connect with you, uh, and we hope we'll hear more. You will hear more from me here at Tech Talks.
I hope so too. Thanks for all the organisers and for all the people who wrote in with questions as well.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
once
much.
again. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye, everyone.